Welcome back everyone to the weekly mailbox, your chance to ask me questions about absolutely anything you like. If you're new around here, don't worry, it's all very straightforward. 5 questions from you, the viewers. You can send them on Twitter, YouTube comments or Instagram, generally Formula 1 or Formula E based, but we've been a bit crazy before in the past and answered some very bizarre questions. Links always are in the description, but let's crack on with question 1, which comes from YouTube, comes from Grizzly1092, and he or she asks, which F1 team will be the next to leave / rebrand? Thank you for your question, buddy. A really topical one, this actually, because there's lots of rumours over the last season that potentially Renault have kind of hit this stagnation in their progression in Formula 1. They were getting better and better and better each season, but 2019, bit of a backward step, and we've kind of theorised before that maybe they're perhaps gambling and maybe letting 2019 and 2020 settle and putting all their eggs in that 2021 basket. That wouldn't surprise me too much. But there has been rumours that the team is continuing to put more and more money in and results aren't reflecting that increased investment. So potentially Renault could be a one that I think a lot of people would instantly look at to potentially leave Formula 1. But I think the next team to rebrand potentially could be this Racing Point Aston Martin deal. Don't worry if you've not heard anything about this, but there is a rumour over the last couple of weeks that Lawrence Stroll, Big Daddy Stroll, if you're not too sure who Lawrence Stroll is, he's trying to sort out a deal with Aston Martin so that Racing Point, I'm guessing, becomes Aston Martin Racing Point. I think that's the idea. That's when they first announced the name of Racing Point. The idea is that you get a sponsor beforehand to make the name sound normal. Yeah, a little bit confusing. But yeah, lots of talk about that deal potentially going through. And we've seen Aston Martin over the past couple of years with this deal with Red Bull being the title sponsor. But that Red Bull name is just so ridiculously long. Aston Martin, Red Bull Racing, Honda. That's a little bit messy. So I could see an Aston Martin Racing Point deal coming to fruition. Anyone else? Well, I don't think any of the top 3 teams will be leaving anytime soon in Formula 1. I think McLaren are in a very strong place. Haas F1, I don't see them moving anywhere. I don't see them rebranding either. Of course, they've got a big following in the world of NASCAR, so I don't see that happening. Williams? Maybe Williams could drop off. I think if I was going to expect any team to leave, it would be Williams, which would be a massive shame. And they're the team that I think a lot of us now are really hoping they can find their feet somehow. And George Russell, I think they've got a very special driver in that car next year. They just need to sort it out. They just need to show up to testing on day one. I think the biggest thing for Williams is 2021. If we go into 2021 and they are still comfortably behind, I think then serious talks will be discussed whether they should leave, whether they'll be bought out, rebranded, whatever. But yeah, I think the most likely is this Aston Martin deal, and I might do a separate video on that one because I really do find the whole marketing aspect behind Aston Martin in Formula 1 really cool, really fascinating. So yeah, I can see that happening. Maybe not for this year, but definitely in the future. Thank you for your question, Grizzly1092. Moving on to question 2, comes from _mango_. The names today, very spicy indeed, very peachy. Keep it fruit and topical. Sorry, everyone. What can Mick Schumacher do in his second season of Formula 2? I was critical of Formula 2 in 2019. Not that it was bad racing, definitely not. Another cracking season of that. But I think the calibre of drivers wasn't quite as we've seen over the last couple of years. 2017 with Charles Leclerc coming through. We also had Ollie Rowland, Artem Markelov, Nick De Vries as well was in that year as well. And that was a really strong season. And then the year after, we had George Russell, Lando Norris, Alex Albon really finding his feet that year. Nick De Vries again, Sergio Sette Camara. Lots of drivers in that year. And then last season, Nick De Vries versus Nicholas Latifi. 2 experienced drivers in Formula 2. But I just feel we didn't quite have that super special driver if that kind of makes sense. And I like Nick de Vries and what he's doing, and he's had a really strong start in Formula 2, and Formula E, sorry, and was definitely comfortably the best driver in Formula 2 last year. But apart from that, I was really struggling to find many drivers that I was really getting excited about. I think the two exceptions would be Guanyan Zhou and Antoine Hubert. Those were the two drivers that I was really looking forward to, and I felt like had a real chance to get into Formula 1. This year, I think the caliber's definitely going up. I really do believe that. A lot of drivers who have been in the sports for quite some time are being moved on. I mean, we've got Latifi going to Formula 1, De Vries going to Formula E. I believe Luca Giotto is finally leaving Formula 2 next year in search of another challenge. But we've also got other drivers like Robert Schwartzman, Marcus Armstrong, Yuki Tsunoda, who was only announced fairly recently, who's part of the Red Bull Young Driver programme. We've also got Pedro Piquet. A lot of drivers coming in next year to Formula 2, and I think we'll really have that youthfulness come back into the sport a little bit, and I think a lot of hungry drivers as well. So, on the topic of Mick Schumacher, he had an alright first year, and I've said in the past that if you actually look at Schumacher's trajectory throughout the youth series of motorsport, he seems to have one season of just settling in, not doing fantastic, not blowing the world away, but it's that second year where the ball really gets rolling, really understands the car, starts winning multiple races, and really hunts down the championship. So if I look at that and follow the trend throughout his career so far, I would say he's got a good chance of it. I think there is better drivers in Formula 2 next year. But like I say, I can't ignore the fact that Schumacher always gets better in his second year. He's in a fantastic team in Prema, alongside Robert Schwartzman, who's his teammate. I think that's going to be so exciting in 2020. And I think we're going to have a real exciting battle for the championship. I really do believe that. And there's a whole host of other drivers that we don't know if they're going to be in the season yet, in the championship at all. Jack Aitken, I know a lot of you love him. I think he deserves one last chance in Formula 2. We've also got drivers like Giuliano Alesi, who wasn't great in his first year, but a little bit like the Schumacher effect, we'll call it. Could he get better? Sergio Sette Camara might take one last bite of the cherry. There's lots of drivers that I think have potential next season to do really well. And actually, only a couple of days ago, there was one extra new team announced in Formula 2 in the form of High-Tech GP. So there's going to be even more drivers on the grid in 2020. So I think Schumacher's got a shot. But what I would say is with 5 drivers in the Ferrari Young Driver Academy, I've got Callum Ilott as well. I think he's really good. 5 drivers in the Ferrari Young Driver Academy in Formula 2. He's going to have to impress. It's a big year for Mick Schumacher, but I think he'll be all right. Thank you for your question. I know a lot of you were asking about Mick Schumacher this week. And moving on to question 3, which comes from Instagram, the F1 Debate Show boys. Thank you very much, guys, for asking your question. Jordan and Lyle, although it says they're from Instagram, if you haven't ever come across their YouTube channel, feel free to do so. I'll leave, if I remember, please, Jordan or Lyle, if I forget, please just send me a message and I will throw it down there. But I will try my best. Yes, check their stuff out. Very, very nice lads. I met Jordan at Autosport. Cracking guys. And I've done a bit of work with them recently as well. So I would recommend checking them out. I don't do that very often, but really nice guys. Anyway, they ask, this is a late one. You're lucky. I just managed to squid you in. But which country would you like Formula 1 to go to that has never been there before? I picked out this question because there were a lot of questions, a hell of a lot of questions this week. In general, there were a lot of questions this week. I think it was the record for questions, people, so well done, pat yourselves on the back. But a lot of questions about potential new Formula 1 races. And actually, that's something that I think, of course, the winter in Formula 1 is a barren place for news. But of late, we've had lots of speculation again about Florida. And what's going on with the Miami GP? Is it going ahead? They've redesigned the layout. The council still don't seem to be very happy with it being held in Miami. The residents of Miami don't seem to be too on board with it. So that seems all a little bit wishy-washy. We've also had talks about a race in Saudi Arabia. I'm not too sure about that. Of course, it's had a good couple of years in Formula E. And actually speaking with Hazel Southwell, If you don't know who that is, she's a brilliant Formula E journalist. I think she's freelance, but she's done bits and bobs in Formula 1. But actually, she's not freelance. She's with a new Formula E thing that I can't remember their name. Inside Electric, I think they are. Anyway, she has gone out to Saudi Arabia the last 2 years and said, actually, it's a lot better than people give it credit for, but there's still a lot of issues there. And actually, she pointed out, and something I found very interesting, is they have 3 Nandos in Saudi Arabia. So it goes up in my estimations a little bit, but there's no denying there's still underlying problems there in Saudi Arabia. So I'm a little bit cautious about Formula 1 going there, but it is an opportunity to potentially highlight issues in that region. But on the other hand, Formula 1 has definitely had problems in the past with going to Bahrain. Bahrain have said they're completely on board with Formula 1 going to Saudi Arabia. It's not near the top of my list, if I'm being totally honest. And I know there's a lot of you guys out there that love Formula 1, and that Formula 1 is not in your country. And I think to myself, well, I'd rather have races there. I know a few of you, and this is kind of going against Jordan's question, but a few of you are from India on the channel, and you've been asking, will Formula 1 ever go to India? Well, they actually trialled it at the beginning of the 2010s. We went to what was it? The circuit New Delhi, I think was the name. Might have got that slightly wrong. Sebastian Vettel won every single race in the Red Bull, but it was axed from the calendar in 2014, so we weren't there for that long. But it was a circuit I quite liked. I wouldn't be opposed to going back there. I believe it had the longest straight in Formula 1, but it was the most up and down, wibbly-wobbly straight you've ever seen in your life. But it was cool. The racing wasn't amazing, but it was good enough. It was better than circuits like Melbourne and Paul Ricard, I would probably argue. But to countries we've never been to, I've said this quite a few times, but I really do think we need some sort of Scandinavian race. What they've been able to produce for Formula 1 through drivers, through different mechanics, and just what they've managed to just bring to Formula 1, that different element, I think is really special. And to give back a little bit, and to give Finland a race, to give Norway a race, I think that's something that they should at least look into. I know it's pretty cold up there, and that's definitely something that Formula 1 doesn't like, or at least the cars don't like, is colder temperatures. But I just feel give it a go. You know, I look at places like Poland. I don't think there's ever been a race in Poland. That would be something I'd be quite interested in. Greece, also, I think would be quite cool. I'm trying to think what else. Africa. I've always said I think Formula 1 needs to try and go back there. That's a big glaring hole on the calendar. Of course, we did go to Kyalami back in the 70s and 80s, I believe it was. Sorry guys, that was a little bit before my time, but I have seen bits and bobs from that circuit. Don't know if it would really suit modern Formula 1, but I think definitely exploring that avenue would be more higher up on my list than having another 10 races in the US. And I understand completely why Liberty Media want to do that. And again, the US is a pretty big country. Why can't we have a few races? I'm not opposed to that. But I think there's definitely fan bases out there that never get even an opportunity to see Formula 1 and yet are just as dedicated, just as sweaty as some of the rest of us. So, I just think everyone should have a little bit of Formula 1 in their lives. And I know a lot of you are US fans, and I know having a race in Texas, and perhaps you're in New York, that's a hell of a way to go. So I think, yeah, a couple more races in the US, I wouldn't be opposed to that either. So thank you for your question, Jordan. And again, a lot of you were asking about the calendar. If there's anything I have missed, I'll try and talk to you guys in the comments section, because it's a beefy one, that. And again, that could be the kind of topic I do a complete separate video on. Question 4. Who will be the surprise driver? I get that now. I was thinking the Sainz of 2020. That's Sainz, obviously. The surprise driver of 2020. Really butchered that one. So I'm going to apologise and not pronounce your name, because if I butchered the question, I'm really going to butcher your name. So thank you for that, because I really struggle with this. I really do. And that's why I picked it out. A little bit of fun. But of course, this is a super subjective question, because if you say the biggest surprise will be Verstappen because he wins the championship, probably would be because you don't think Verstappen's got a chance at the championship, if that kind of makes sense. Lando Norris, perhaps, finished outside the top 10. If he finishes 7th, maybe, is that a big surprise? For some of you, definitely. For others, definitely not. So I think Norris could do much better in 2020, so I would definitely put him out as a shout. Romain Grosjean, I think, is definitely one of those drivers that people would put at the bottom of their list in Formula 1. So if he's inside the top 10 at the end of the year, I think that would be a massive surprise to a lot of people. Likewise with Lance Stroll. If he's able to beat Perez, that would be a big surprise. I'm going to go with... why not? I'm going to go with George Russell. Now, I think this year, I think a lot of people were impressed with George Russell, but I just have that gut feeling that if he was able to do that in his first year in Formula 1 with the team, if Williams even just gets slightly better, just a teeny tiny bit better, we might see Russell be able to out-qualify a few of those lower down teams a little bit more. We might see him get a couple of points. We might see him just jump in to Q2 on more than one occasion. It's unlikely, but I'm struggling with this one. I really am. But I think, Grosjean and Russell, for me, because the other drivers, Perez, it's not going to be a surprise if Sergio Perez bosses the midfield because that's what he's super good at doing. Likewise with Daniel Ricciardo. Esteban Ocon is a driver I think has really mixed opinions in the world of Formula 1. I think actually he's probably the driver that I think has got the most diverse opinions about throughout the Formula 1 fan base. There's some people that really believe he's World Championship material, others that believe he doesn't deserve a seat in Formula 1. I think I find myself kind of in the middle of all that melee. So maybe Ocon, but I think he'll just be in the midfield. I don't see anything super special, but I could be wrong. Before I dig myself a hole, I'll go Grosjean and Russell, and I will move swiftly on to the final question for this week. And if you are new around here, you might not know, but the final question is audience participation. Don't worry, it's not too scary, but I would like to know your thoughts in the comments below. And it's a very simple question from William Kosis. What is your favourite helmet livery from the 2019 grid? William obviously knows me very well because this is one of my favourite parts of Formula 1 is helmet design. And I know it's something so petty and something so silly and something that most people don't care about, but I think helmet design is super, super cool. So I'm looking forward to that as much as the car launches. So, who are my favourites? I do have a soft spot for Romain Grosjean's 2019 helmet. Changed it to a matte finish this year. Very nice indeed. Really like that one, especially his Lightning McQueen edition. That was pretty good. Daniel Ricciardo's helmet, that is ridiculously cool. Love that one. Charles Leclerc's helmet actually as well for Ferrari. That was a really special helmet. Sebastian Vettel's as well. I know I don't want to say it's getting stale, but that is becoming a super iconic helmet. Likewise with Lewis Hamilton. I liked Carlos Sainz's blue helmet at the beginning of the year. He then swapped it to a kind of chrome version that didn't do it for me as much. Lando Norris had some cracking helmets throughout 2019. I'm really avoiding my answer. I think my favourite helmet actually was Carlos Sainz's in the USA. It's a helmet that we didn't see for very long that weekend because we never see Carlos Sainz on track from the cameras, that is. But it was just a really different design. And it was really simple. Black with a bit of red, a bit of orange. Yeah, I really like that one. And also Max Verstappen's in Spa. Yeah, changed my answer straight away. Max Verstappen's in Spa. Love that thing. That beast of an orange and chrome helmet. Oh, that one all day long. Anyway, I'll leave it there. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments for all of today's questions, especially helmet design. Of course, if you've got questions for next week's episode, throw them in the comments below. Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. Thank you for watching, guys. If you're new around here, feel free to subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next one.